Okay, well, thank you very much. And I'm looking forward to talking to you about talent pipelining. And so I'm just going to share my screen, and I'll share a slide deck, which I'm going to talk through over the next 18 minutes. Now, the first thing I should say is I'm extremely sorry that I'm unable to do this session in Hungarian. And I really do wish that I had listened harder at school and I'd have been able to do it in your language. So my apologies. Okay, so the first thing I want to quickly talk about is a definition. So what is a talent pipeline? A talent pipeline is not a list of people. It's not a list of individuals who are on your applicant tracking system or on an Excel spreadsheet. It's not the people who have applied to a job. If we think about a talent pipeline in the context of a sales pipeline, again, a sales pipeline is not everybody that you might sell your product or service to. A sales pipeline is who do we not know, who do we know but is not ready to buy, and who do we know and is likely to buy soon. So when we think about a talent pipeline, we think about it in terms of who's cold, who's warm, and who is what I call hire ready. That means they're ready to come for a conversation with your organization today. Now, if we want to build talent pipelines as individual recruiters, we can do that up to around 300 candidates. There's a law of the mind, which is that we can remember enough information about 300 people to be able to determine who is where within a kind of pipeline situation. To do it with larger numbers than 300, you need technology. You need technology to automate the relationship building process, and you need technology which is going to allow you to understand which people are cold, warm, and hire ready. Some concepts I think are important to talk about. The first one is the flight of the bumblebee. Bumblebees have very difficult to predict flight patterns. Candidates have difficult to predict patterns online. They'll go from one piece of communication to another piece of communication. They might go to your website or your career site. They might take a look at your social media. And so because their flight pattern, if you like, is difficult to understand, is difficult to predict, that means we need to be able to track and score everywhere they are around your content. So tracking and scoring where candidates are going means that even if they have an unpredictable pattern, you're still going to know where they've been. The second aspect to this is about the concept of spear phishing. When we're going looking for candidates and we're doing recruitment marketing, most recruitment marketing initiatives are like net phishing. The definition of success in net phishing is a large catch. But of course, if you're going fishing and you bring in a large catch of fish, you've probably got to throw quite a lot of them back because they're not the kinds of fish that you're actually looking for. So when we go spear phishing, that means that we save a lot of time. We get directly to the right person when we need them at the point that the vacancy goes live. This is the concept of talent pipelining enables you to go spear phishing because you know which candidates are ready to talk to you about opportunities today. When we think about in-demand talent, this is of particular importance. In-demand talent are software engineers, nurses, probably teachers, actuaries, salespeople, the kinds of people where they have skills that are in higher demand than there is available supply. So diversity is really important. In a lot of organizations, certainly where I am in the UK, there are not enough females in any of those job disciplines I've just mentioned, things like engineers and software developers and things like that. So when we're trying to attract people who are in demand, we need to be able to go spear phishing. When we think about regular versus irregular hires, this is also important. So when we're thinking about regular hires, so I am constantly hiring software developers, then I want to take a farming approach like this lady's taking. When we're thinking about irregular hires, then the hunting approach is absolutely fine. So every 12 months, I might hire one person in my finance team. When the vacancy goes live, going out and identifying those people and then trying to bring them in is the right thing to do. But when you've got regular hires, then farming is a better way of doing things. We also think about the total addressable market. Who is everybody you might want to hire in the future? And if we can do something to identify all of those people and then generate relationships with all of those people, then we're going to have real good competitive advantage. When we're thinking about a sales versus marketing pipeline, and we then transfer that concept into recruitment, this is also very important. If you look at B2B sales and marketing today, the pipeline is 100% marketing generated. In recruitment, however, it's 95% what I would call sales generated. So that's individuals going and finding people and attempting to convert those into a hire. In B2B sales and marketing, they've taken a more sophisticated approach than we have, more early, and that is using content to nurture individuals, using email and text message and social media to go and build relationships at scale, generate goodwill, be useful, be relevant, and then use marketing related technologies which tell salespeople exactly who's ready to buy. We need to do this in recruitment. We need to use marketing type technologies which are going to tell recruiters exactly which candidates are ready to are hire ready based on their interactions with your content online. So when we think about talent pipelines, we think about groups of individuals who are maybe got skills in things like software development or technology, in engineering, in finance, in HR, in sales. And that is a talent pipeline when you know who's cold, warm, and hire ready. Other important aspects to this are, where are your candidates? So within that pipeline, who is unaware of your organization, who's aware of your organization, who is educating themselves, who's more deeply considering, who has applied and then been hired and not been hired. This would be a really great talent pipeline, because everybody, your total addressable market, can be within this pipe somewhere. And when you know exactly who's educating and who is more deeply considering, you know exactly who to go and talk to when the vacancy goes live, and then bring them through the process. You don't want to be spending your valuable human time talking to people down here at the awareness stage. Now, since I started in recruitment 21 years ago, a lot of things have changed in the candidate journey. So candidates could independently become aware of opportunities, but then they had to talk to a recruiter to go through the sort of warm and hire ready stage, or through the consideration stages. Today, however, candidates can independently find out about your organization. They can find out what it's like to work there. They can find out who they would be working with, what the career paths are, how much the salary would be. And they don't need to talk to recruiters until much, much later in the process. So this is, again, another reason why things have really changed in terms of the power is all with candidates today. They can find out all about your organization. So what you want to find out from them is, where are they in that pipeline? Who's cold, who's warm, and who's hire ready? To do this, you need to start tracking what they're doing. In this example, which is who do you call first, you can see that John's opened an email from your recruitment team but did nothing else, whereas Jane opened the email, clicked the link, looked at the landing page, looked to your company on Glassdoor and YouTube and the hiring manager's LinkedIn and the job description. If you've got 500 Johns and Janes in a talent pipeline, then you can filter all these candidates according to an engagement score if you're taking this talent pipeline automation approach and you know that the Johns are not ready for a conversation, but the Janes are probably ready for a conversation. So you prioritize talking to the Janes. Okay. In this example, John would probably have 1 point because he opened an email. Jane would have a point for the email, a point for the link click, 3 points for the landing page, 3 points for Glassdoor, 3 points for YouTube, 5 points for the hiring manager's LinkedIn, and 10 points for the job description. So Jane would be on 26 points based on an accumulation of the points attached to these activities, whereas John would only have 1. Jane's clearly much more likely to be ready for a conversation. So when we think about nurturing our talent pipelines, I recommend that you consider what you're going to share with people based on who's cold, who's warm, and who's hire ready. For those who are cold, which according to LinkedIn last year was around 80% of people were not in the market looking for opportunities. That might be less now because of the pandemic. It might be 70% or 60%, but it's still most people are cold. So, but what we know that they're interested in is things like industry insights, skills, career advice. When you're sharing that kind of communication with them through email or through text message or through social media, then you're still generating goodwill and name recognition between your organization and those individuals. Those people who are warm, they're interested in your employer brand. Those people who are hire ready, they're interested in a more deep insight into your organization. What's it really like to work there? Now, candidates will move from cold to warm to hire ready based on clicking around this type of content. And so when somebody goes from cold to warm, automatically they should start receiving communication for people who are warm. We score this kind of interactions with your content in this type of way. So down at the bottom, you can see this is channels and formats. If somebody opens an email, for example, it might score just 1 point, whereas they look at your white paper or a video, that'll score a higher number of points. If they're looking at industry news for what's happening in the pharmaceutical industry, it might score 1 point. They look at the job description for that pharmaceutical sales rep job, it'll score 10 points and send an alert to your recruiter to tell them that the candidate's done that. You want data, insights, alerts coming into recruiters based on who's cold, warm, and hire ready, who's interacting heavily with your communication, and therefore who's the most engaged. Ideally, what you want is pipelines visualized in this kind of way. So who's cold, who's warm, who's hire ready. Pipelines for things like engineers, for example. In this case, 578 who are cold, 848 who are warm, 573 who are hire ready. And then segments. Segments would be ways of filtering further your pipeline. So in the engineers pipeline, here's an example, CAD engineers, in which case there's 6 in this segment who are cold, 12 who are warm, and 2 who are hire ready. You would immediately, when the vacancy goes live, go to these 2 hire ready candidates. You need to use a campaign builder, which is going to automatically adapt campaigns as candidates interact and generate insights, score the candidates, and serve alerts to recruiters. In this very, very simple example, if the candidate views the job description, then the recruiter gets a notification to tell them that Jane looked at the job description, and so today's the day, go and contact Jane because she's likely to be ready for a conversation. When you're able to filter your candidates on this engagement score, you can get to shortlist much faster. Our customers tell us that they can get to shortlist 50% faster because they know that Vivia is on 18 points. So Vivia is somebody who should be contacted, whereas Tatum is on 11 points. So that's a much lower score. So they would contact Vivia first, and Audrey, Isaac, and William, because they're all on 15 or more points. Very, very useful way of filtering your pipelines. When you're able to see exactly what each candidate did, That means that you know what to say when you make contact. So in this example, the candidate opened an email about how we work, looked at the landing page for how we work, read the CEO's blog, looked at Meet the Team, and looked at a job description on the careers page. So as a recruiter, I know what to say. I know how to build rapport with that candidate very, very quickly. When you've got 32 different actions and decisions like this, you can create a lot of automation within the campaigns that you build. Automated campaigns which adapt with every click that the candidate makes. So Jane does one thing, so she gets a journey that goes one way. John does something different, so his journey goes a different way, automatically. So a real optimum candidate experience. You want actions which are things like send an email to the candidates, send a text message to the candidates, adjust their score, move them to a different campaign, based on decisions which are things like, did they open the email? Did they visit the URL? Did they click on the content asset? Did they click on the form? Automated journeys. Some examples about the types of emails that you might send out. Email is the #1 content channel. It drives the most candidate clicks, still in 2020. So here's some examples of the kind of emails that you might send. This is one that's a little bit more designed, and this one's a very, very simple text-only email. But all of these links are tracked and scored. Whatever the candidates do from these emails, all tracked and scored. Landing page examples, you would want containers. Containers with, here's some content about the company and maybe the industry. Here's some content about the company a bit more, and then here's update your details or take a look at what it's like to work here. This example for Dialog Semiconductor is a really good one. Talent communities linked to this. Talent communities are very, very powerful for building deeper relationships with potential candidates. And in this example, it's called Green Club. It's an initiative from a company called Specsavers, which is an international, I think 10 or 12 different countries, optometry company. So they prescribe you with glasses and contact lenses and things like that. So in this example, Green Club has a home, news section, education, events, webcasts. As the candidates are interacting with that, as you see here, it says Specsavers know we're on this. This is a genuine community all about learning and development for optometrists. When candidates are interacting with this, and then when they go onto the careers site to take a look at jobs with Specsavers, that's when the recruitment team gets an alert to say that that person's behavior's changed. I'm conscious I've talked through this a lot of different concepts in here quite quickly. I hope it's really been interesting for you, and I'm easy to find especially on LinkedIn, but also on Twitter and Facebook, and my contact details are here. So if you'd like to talk, then I'd be delighted to talk.
Thank you very much, Adam. It was really, really useful in a way that talent pipelining is still not in a mature phase of recruitment activity, I believe, and as I see, and also as I saw the comment along your presentation, there is no direct questions as of now, but I'm sure the main reason is that the in-depth details of how you handle talent pipelining is one step ahead of the current market or the majority of the current market.
I think there's a lot to think about. It's very much a marketing-related discipline, and we're starting to see it become very popular in certain countries and certain industries, but I believe that within 5 years, the whole recruitment world is going to be taking all of these kind of approaches that I've talked about today.